Dust devils spiraled across the ash-gray plains of Korlax, twisting to the ruins of a shattered alien city like ghosts refusing to rest. The ground trembled every few seconds, a dull reminder of distant orbital bombardments. Yet the Coalition's forward camp remained a hum of arrogance and electronic comfort. Domes shimmered with personal shielding. Soldiers from 12 different species moved with the smug ease of technological superiority. Floating armor, AI-linked rifles, exo-wings flaring with soft plasma. In their eyes, the war was already won. Then came the humans. Their landing craft didn't glide like the others. It thudded into the cracked terrain, engines wheezing like overworked lungs. The ramp groaned as it dropped. A dozen Earth soldiers stepped out, boots crunching on gravel. Faces hardened, gear worn but maintained. Their rifles were long, metallic, and utterly archaic. There were no power nodes, no quantum circuits, just carbon barrels, optics, and old-school craftsmanship. Laughter rippled through the Coalition ranks. A group of Sarlan tacticians, lithe, six-eyed beings with translucent skin, snickered behind clawed hands. They brought projectile weapons. One muttered through his translator. What are they going to do, scratch paint? Near the back of the human column, Captain Rail Morgan disembarked without ceremony. His posture was upright, movements exact. Across his back, in a custom sheath of reinforced leather, was his rifle. No markings, no attachments, just a dark, brutal elegance, like something passed down through generations rather than issued from a depot. His boots were scuffed, his cloak earthweave, and his face bore the stillness of a man who'd stared through scopes longer than he'd looked people in the eye. He said nothing as the Coalition's quartermaster scanned his gear. The machine paused when it reached his rifle. Weapon not recognized. It chimed in 6 languages. Not surprised, Rail replied without looking up. Inside the briefing dome, General Zorik loomed over the strategic table, towering and plated in golden exoskeletal armor. The Varn commander projected both physical power and disdain in equal measure. He gestured at the holographic terrain flickering above the table. A canyon system known as Black Ridge. This sector is unstable, he grumbled, his voice like grinding stone. Scouts go silent. Probes return corrupted. Coalition squads vanish without trace. Our best psychics sense nothing. It's either cloaked or ancient. The alien officers shifted uneasily. Whispers of something worse than cloaking filled the room. General Zorik turned toward the human delegation. You will take a position at the rear. If the enemy spills through, you'll slow them. If not, observe. Earth's commanding officer, Colonel Hanley, bristled but said nothing. Orders were orders. Their detachment was already treated like relics, primitive, expendable. Let them be underestimated. Rail stood silently at the edge of the briefing, eyes fixed not on the table but on the distant ridges flickering in the hologram's edge. His mind wasn't on tactics. It was calculating distances, wind patterns, light fall-off, elevation. Later, as soldiers busied themselves with unpacking and calibration, Rail walked alone beyond the perimeter. He climbed a narrow path etched into the cliffs above the encampment, moving like a shadow. There, high above, he lay prone among black stones warmed by alien sun, his rifle resting steady in the dust. Through his scope, he saw what satellites missed. Movement, not heat, not sound. Pressure, an absence where air should move freely. A distortion crawling along the canyon floor, like the ghost of a predator. He tapped his earpiece. Something's down there, he said calmly. Hanley's voice came back with static. Nothing on sensors. That's because you're using sensors. Below, a transport hovered past a ridge and vanished without warning. No explosion. No energy spike. Just gone. Contact command. Hanley barked over comms. Get eyes on Black Ridge now. Inside the command dome, Zorik watched the empty ridge with narrowed eyes. He glanced toward the human section of the feed and scoffed. You trust this sniper's hunch? He said. Hanley stood firm. He's not just a sniper. He's a ghost eye. He led clean sweeps in the breach wars without drones. Saw through cloaks others didn't know existed. Zorik sneered, then let the primitive prove himself. Let's see how far a bullet flies against the void. Back on the ridge, Rail slowly chambered around. Not because he had a shot. Not yet. But because he always loaded before war truly began. Behind him, the twin suns of Korlax began to set, casting terrain in long, slashing shadows. The wind died. The air grew still. And from the mouth of the canyon, where no creature had been seen for days, something blinked into view, part muscle, part shadow, part machine, and stared directly toward the ridge. Toward him. Rail didn't flinch. He shifted the scope an inch. One breath, one finger half-tensed. The wind carried distant laughter from the camp. Galactic soldiers mocking Earth's rifles, still amused. He whispered, "Keep laughing," then slowly exhaled, and waited. The sun never fully set on Korlax. Its twin stars took turns casting pale light, ensuring darkness never came entirely, only deepened into a bruised twilight. In that unnatural dusk, the black ridge stirred like something exhaling after millennia of silence. What Rail had seen wasn't shadow or a cloaked soldier. It was deliberate, curious, and aware. By dawn, 3 coalition squads had vanished. No distress calls, no visuals. Their bio-tags simply blinked offline. Command scrambled. Drones were dispatched in tight formations. They vanished within minutes. Feeds reduced to static or white noise, sometimes returning only frames of black spires and organic movement that defied pattern recognition. In the dome, tension cracked through the previously smug ranks. Tactical advisors from the Myrai Hive clicked nervously with their mandibles. The Sarthans, once amused, now argued over spectral energy anomalies. No one had answers, only fear disguised as strategy. General Zorik, however, showed no such restraint. He roared into the comm feeds, demanding full frontal scans, SIPL sweeps, thermal overdrives. The coalition unleashed every known form of detection. Korlax responded with silence. Colonel Hanley stood quietly, arms folded, watching the chaos unfold around him. Beside him, Rail leaned against a support beam, arms crossed, rifle slung low on his shoulder. No one's looking with their eyes. Rail muttered. All they see is what the tech lets them. Hanley sighed. They think that's the same thing. The human sniper had spent the night on the ridge, unmoving, tracking the area's irregularities. It wasn't just that something was down there, it was learning. Every time the coalition adapted, it adjusted, it was studying, mapping, baiting. When Zorik stormed into the human corner of the command center, his glare was molten. "You!" he barked, pointing a clawed hand at Rail. "Sniper, you claim to have seen this threat. Then you will find it again, and eliminate it." Rail raised an eyebrow. "Alone. Your kind thrives in obscurity, yes? Vanish into your rocks, and do what you were brought here to do." The general sneered. "We've lost enough real soldiers." Hanley took a step forward, but Rail stopped him with a glance. He nodded once to the general, calm as ever. "I'll need 4 hours. 1 blind, 1 vantage, and permission to shoot without oversight." Zorik gestured dismissively. "Shoot it with your bullets, if you want. Nothing else has worked." Within minutes, Rail was gone. He packed light, a folding scope, a camo net laced with chameleon fibers, and a satchel of handmade ammunition. No digital tags, no tracking. His movements wouldn't ping a single sensor. That was the point. The thing out there killed technology first, so he left it all behind. By the 3rd hour, he was crouched beneath a slab of jagged obsidian rock 200 meters above the ridge mouth, face smeared in soot, breath measured to avoid vapor trails. Through the scope, he scanned each crevice with methodical slowness, every flick of his finger deliberate. The creature, if that's what it was, had adapted to synthetic surveillance. But Rail wasn't synthetic. Then he saw it. Not movement, lack of it. A space between rocks that should shimmer in heat, but didn't. A shimmer in the wrong place. A curve of light bent subtly wrong. It was massive, cloaked not in invisibility, but in perception, like a wound in a landscape. Easy to overlook, unless you knew what wasn't supposed to be there. He watched it breathe. A shimmer in the dust. A rhythm in the stillness. The Charzun. It wasn't a beast in the traditional sense. More like symbiosis, a machine in ancient biology, muscle interwoven with mineral plating, a head shaped like a flanged spear, skin absorbing light and temperature. Rail didn't flinch. He took notes, adjusted elevation. On his fifth minute of observation, the thing twitched, not randomly, but as if reacting, as if it knew it was being watched. Rail didn't move, didn't blink. He slowed his heartbeat, became stone. Below, the creature lifted its head. No visible eyes, yet it turned toward the cliffs. Not directly, but close. He waited. Then, slowly, it retreated back into the ridge with silent, unnerving grace. Rail tapped his earpiece once. It's real. It learns. It sees more than we do. Back at base, the Coalition Council erupted again. The creature was officially designated a Class Omega threat. Uncontainable, unreadable, potentially sapient. Zorik was livid. We will level the ridge, vaporize the land. That didn't work on Gallon 6, one of the Myri hissed. And this thing, added Hanley, didn't even flinch when the plasma drone self-destructed. We need eyes on it, biological ones. Unlinked, analog. The words were barely out of the Sarthan tactician's mouth before all heads turned toward the humans. Rail was already preparing his second recon. This time, he took only one round with him. A uranium core shell forged in Earth's last ballistic foundry, hand-packed with magnetic stabilizers. Primitive to everyone else, but he'd seen it tear through quantum shielding when placed exactly right. He didn't plan to engage yet. He planned to test a theory. Back in the ridge, the wind returned. Rail adjusted his netting, settled again, and waited. An hour later, the Charzoon returned, closer this time. Rail shifted, aimed not at the body, but at a stone ledge beside it. He breathed in, out, and fired. The sound cracked like thunder across the cliffs. The bullet hit the rock and pinged in 3 precise ricochets, one past creature's head. The Charzoon snapped around, its entire body coiling like a serpent. It roared, not a sound of pain but of challenge. Rail exhaled. That was enough. Now it knew him, and now it would hunt him. Back at the base, Coalition feeds captured only the roar. Even that shook the command dome's walls. General Zorik stood frozen. What did your sniper just do? Hanley allowed himself the faintest smile. He introduced himself. The silence that followed was unnatural. Not the stillness of peace, but the tight-lipped hush of something intelligent recalibrating its strategy. In the moments after Rail's bullet ricocheted past the Charzoon's head, the entire canyon shifted. Birds stopped flying. Dust no longer danced. Even the wind, once whispering along the ridge walls, ceased. It was as if the planet itself had paused to watch what would happen next. Rail remained prone, body sunk into the crevice of stone he claimed. He didn't move, didn't even blink, as the beast below slowly retreated into shadow, its head swiveling once, not in fear, but in calculated recognition. That single shot, deliberately missed, had changed the game. It wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. One the Charzoon had accepted. Back at the Coalition base, 100 command feeds argued over readings and radar blur. Data flooded in, vibrational anomalies, gravity shifts, electromagnetic murmurs. But none of it mattered. Only Rail understood the change. This wasn't about an ambush anymore. It had become a hunt. Predator and predator. One with ancient instincts. One with perfected patience. Rail moved before nightfall. Not far, just enough. A new perch, higher and windward, where the trajectory would be cleaner. He chose it with the meticulousness of a surgeon, scanning every angle, measuring every potential echo of a shot. He laid low behind shattered basalt and unpacked a second blind, this time woven with crushed minerals to blend with the terrain. Nothing artificial, nothing traceable. He chewed dried rations without taste. Sleep came in 2-minute meditative dips, one eye barely shut. His mind drifted only briefly, to earth, to old forests, to the first time he learned to fire through wind and leaf and silence. His instructor's voice, gruff and calm, whispered from memory. You don't shoot to kill, you shoot to speak. The Charzoon answered at dawn. It didn't charge. It didn't roar. Instead, it crept, a blur of broken physics along the lower cliffs. Every movement was nearly imperceptible, like a thought gliding through fog. It was hunting, but not like an animal. It moved with intent, intelligence. It was flanking him. Rail let it. He lay still, counting its rhythm, waiting. He saw the dust shift where it crawled, saw the light bend fractionally wrong along a jagged shelf. His rifle tracked not a shape, but a prediction. The Charzoon stopped, half exposed, still camouflaged, but vulnerable if one knew where to look. It extended a clawed limb toward the edge of the cliff above him, testing the path. Rail adjusted half a degree. His finger hovered over the trigger, but he didn't fire. He wanted the beast closer, wanted the shot to matter. One bullet left, and it had to end this. Not just wound it, not just delay it. End it. The creature retreated once more, its cover intact. The message was clear. Tomorrow, that night, storm clouds rolled in. Acidic rain drizzled across the rocky outcrops, sizzling faintly against the ground. Rail sat beneath a stone ledge, wrapped in a thermal cloak. He studied the trajectory data he'd etched with chalk on the inner wall of the blind. Wind vectors, elevation changes, humidity impact. All of it carved by hand, no algorithm. Just years of experience and one unbreakable rule. Trust the process. By midnight, he received a message. Old tech, analog pulse on a scrambled frequency. A human voice, distorted by distance. Command considering orbital strike en ridge. Your position within blast radius. Confirm extraction. Rail clicked once in reply. A signal meaning, no, hold fire. No one at base liked that answer, but no one challenged it. The coalition had tried and failed. This was Earthshot now. At sunrise, he saw the Charzoon again. This time it was waiting, fully visible, perched atop a natural arch overlooking the canyon. Its body pulsed faintly, like stone breathing. Armor segments shifted with fluid grace, black and iridescent. From this distance, Rail could see the heel mark from their earlier exchange, a graze near what might be its eye ridge. The beast had not only survived the shot, it remembered it. Rail exhaled. His scope zeroed in on that very spot. He didn't squeeze the trigger. Instead, he slid back into shadow and began the final relocation. Across two ravines, up a slope of jagged shale, until he reached a thin rock spire, isolated, elevated, and nearly suicidal climb. He scaled it by hand, rifle slung tight, fingers bleeding against razor stone. When he reached the top, the world opened beneath him. There wind howled. There he could see it all. The Charzoon tracked him, slithering over the terrain like living gravity. Rail laid his final blind, prone across the spire, motionless, invisible against the sky. He waited. He breathed. One shot. No backup. He watched the creature take position again, moving into open ground, oddly exposed. Almost ritualistic, like it knew what was coming, like it respected it. Rail blinked sweat from his eyes. His finger curled against the trigger. The world hushed. The wind stilled. The final breath began. Then, across the distant calms, Hanley's voice whispered. Permission granted. Rail's lips curved, just slightly. He pulled the trigger. The shot echoed like a crack in the bones of the planet. The uranium core round tore across distance, time, and air, an arc of defiance launched by the forgotten and dismissed. It struck the Charzoon just beneath the eye ridge, exactly where the armor flexed to allow sensory expansion. There was no explosion, no scream, only a sudden collapse. The beast toppled, its body twitching once before going still. The ridge, long haunted by silence, breathed again. Rail exhaled and let the rifle slip from his grip. He did not celebrate. He did not move. Not yet, because he knew this wasn't the end. This was only the echo before the storm. The wind returned first, skimming across the jagged spine of the ridge like a breath held too long. Below, the massive body of the Charzoon lay still, collapsed in a coil of armored limbs and mineral flesh. Smoke rose from the wound beneath its head, not like fire, but like the release of pressure from a sealed tomb. The beast had fallen without a scream, without spectacle. A perfect silence, earned by a perfect shot. Rail didn't move for 36 minutes. He watched, waited. Even the dying could be deceptive, and he wasn't about to declare victory because something simply stopped breathing. He counted the wind cycles, watched for breath, tremor, shadow. He knew that nature could play dead. Monsters could play smarter. But there was nothing now, only the final stillness of a body that once pulsed with impossible intent. Only then did he slide the bolt of his rifle back, slow and silent. The casing popped out and rolled into the dust beside him. A spent shell, a dead planet. One sniper, alone. Target neutralized, he said into the comms, voice steady, as if he were just calling a practice round. Static came first. Then Colonel Hanley's voice, sharpened with tension, softened by awe. Confirm that. You took it down? Rail blinked once, still behind the scope. It's down. It's not getting up. Across the coalition network, silence reigned. Not the confused kind, but the sort that comes before people decide whether to believe what they've just heard. For minutes, no one said a word. No data feeds could explain it. No visual records had captured the shot. Only the distant impact tremor, the thermal drop, and the image of a 60-ton predator collapsing like a puppet with strings cut. Then voices, hushed at first, filled the void. Human weaponry? No plasma signature. One round did that. Within the hour, coalition transports arrived, hovering above the ridge in sleek silence. Shielded survey crews descended like cautious insects, landing in calculated patterns around the beast's corpse. Engineers and xenobiologists gathered near the wound site, their equipment scanning and blinking with uncertainty. Data feeds stuttered. Instruments failed. Some readings refused to exist. Still, the beast lay dead. Its body was unlike anything the scientists had cataloged. Woven metal and sinew, carved with evolutionary artistry, designed for apex domination. And yet it had been stopped, pierced by a hunk of metal and uranium traveling just below Mach 4. The origin of that bullet was now a matter of legend. Rail remained on his perch, still camouflaged, still motionless. The rifle lay beside him, empty now, his presence alone unnerved some of the arriving soldiers. They avoided eye contact, unsure whether to treat him as a hero or a threat. General Zork arrived not long after, his golden armor dulled by dust and weather. His boots crunched across the broken ridge until he stood near the spire, looking up toward the sniper's perch. He did not bark orders. He did not mock. "Ghost Eye," he called, the nickname spoken with quiet recognition. You drew it out. Rail didn't answer. "You let it hunt you," Zork added, more statement than question. This time the sniper stirred. "I wanted to see if it respected the kill." Zork tilted his head. "And it did." The general considered that, eyes narrowing beneath his helm. "Permission to approach?" Rail gave a half nod and climbed down from the stone, every motion slow and deliberate. When he reached the bottom, the two stood facing each other, alien commander and Earth's quietest weapon. "You've shifted the coalition's perception," Zorik said, folding his arms. "Earth rifles are already being requested. Sniper training protocols are being re-evaluated. Soldiers speak of you like myth." Rail said nothing. "I came to ask one thing," Zorik continued. "How did you know where to aim?" "We scanned it for weeks. Never found a weak point." The sniper turned, glancing toward the corpse. "It blinked wrong," he said. The general let out a slow breath, almost amused. "So it was a guess." "No," Rail replied. "It was focus." Later that evening, Rail returned to base only briefly. He declined the debrief, refused a commendation ceremony, and ignored the line of reporters queued by the coalition's media division. He ate alone, cleaned his rifle by hand, packed light. The next morning, his bunk was empty. No note, no destination filed. Just a single bullet left behind on the bed. Pristine, untouched, balanced perfectly on the center seam. By then, the story had already spread across systems. They called it the silent shot. They called him the last trigger. Children on fringe colonies mimicked his stance. Soldiers rewound his file logs like scripture. Commanders who once dismissed Earth's outdated tactics now combed through its archives, searching for other techniques, other relics of raw, unassisted skill. Somewhere, someone even built a statue, not of the Charzoon, not of the moment of impact, but of Rael. He was cast in dark alloy, kneeling low, rifle resting in hand, face carved in patient stillness. At his feet, the inscription read, "One shot, one silence, one standard." The galaxy had learned something that day, not about technology, not about war, but about clarity, about the edge between over-reliance and instinct, and about a species that still knew how to breathe, to watch, and when to pull the trigger with intent sharpened by centuries of survival. No AI had made the shot. No drone had found the weakness. It was a man, flesh, bone, and breath, waiting. And when he struck, the galaxy listened.